Okay, so I've beaten Lies of P, and I've just been kind of waiting and thinking about how I feel after completing the game, because immediately upon completing the game, I felt pretty much nothing but frustration, and it's mostly due to the final boss, because in the first phase of the final boss, there is a problem with one of the hitboxes, and it hits you pretty much instantly if you're close to him, which I'm using a short sword, so I have to be close to the boss. So that led to an incredible amount of frustration. And then in the second phase of the fight, the boss has attacks that cause disruption, which is an instant kill status effect, which also led to frustration, as well as some other moves that are certainly questionable. It would be kind of like if in Elden Ring they made Elden Beast, they made his golden fire also build up Death Blight. And his homing attacks also deal Death Blight. That's kind of like what the last boss is in Lies of P. So to me, that was very odd that they would give the second phase of the final boss an instant kill status effect. That was very strange and very frustrating. Now, in general, if I had to describe Lies of P, it would be it's Sekiro with Dark Souls bosses, right? Because the game wants you to parry, it incentivizes you to parry, but the bosses don't feel designed around being parried. So it's a very strange disjointment between the bosses and what the game is asking you to do. And it's not necessarily just the bosses either, it's also the enemies, right? You run into a new enemy in this game, and you can't simply just look at them and look at their attack animations and intuit the timing for the parry, because the parry is very strict. You can't simply just, if you hold block too early, you can't simply just let go and then try again, because for some reason there's a kind of delay. So even though you can spam block as fast as you want, it's just that the parry window is too tight to be able to use it that way. So that's very strange, and it makes parrying very challenging. And once again, with the bosses not feeling designed around being parried, it makes them fairly frustrating until you've spent a long amount of time learning and fighting them and standing still in front of them parrying, because oh my, there is so much to talk about with this game. Now, firstly, I want to talk about one of the things that will cause problems when you're trying to parry, and that's moving around, right? So basically when you're in a fight, you don't want to move, basically at all. You want to stand still in the same exact place every single time, because if you don't, the timing for the parry is going to be different depending on where you're standing. And so in some cases, it's actually better to walk into the attack to parry it than it is to walk away, just so that the timing is more consistent. Right? For some bosses, they'll attack from a bunch of different directions. The swamp monster will do I'm trying to remember what his combo is. It's scream, it's slap, downward slam with one hand, downward slam with two hands, and then another side slap. For the final side slap, it is beneficial to move closer to it so that it hits early and you can just parry it, and then you can get that timing down consistently, right? But if you were to move in the opposite direction, it would make the timing more challenging because it's going to hit you later than you would think. So that's kind of the... You can do that for pretty much every single boss, right? Every single boss, it is beneficial to simply just stand still in front of them and simply just parry. And if you miss, that's no big deal. Just eat the hit and then keep standing still until you get the timing down. And you can see me doing that here for Luxasia, and the first clip that I showed was me literally just the day after I turned the game off and simply just I loaded back in, and I didn't have any heals, and I was able to do the fight perfectly. Simply because I would just stand still for certain moves, and for others I would position myself such that the boss couldn't move past me, because she has a move where she drags her sword along the ground, causing electric sparks, and she can move past you when she's doing that, and you'll end up getting hit by the electricity on the ground. But if you position yourself in front of her very specifically, she won't be able to move past you, and so you can just simply stay in front of her and then parry. So that's basically the only time that I'm like repositioning myself and moving. But other than that, it's moving to get close and then standing still and then parrying. At least for her first phase. All of that stuff goes out the window in her second phase because she's just moving around too erratically, and it's harder to gauge what it is she's going to do, what she's going to hit you with, because her moveset changes, and she's using a different kind of weapon, right? In her first phase, she's using a greatsword. In her second, she's using a sword and shield. So it's harder to gauge what's going to be happening. And that's kind of the case for a lot of bosses in this game. So usually, you can get the first phase down pretty quickly in just an hour or two, which is quick for this game. And then they'll have a second phase that just completely throws everything that you learned in the first phase out the window for the most part. And even the moves that are similar, Luxasia has certain moves that are similar in a second phase, but the timing is different, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. It can be very frustrating. This game is extremely difficult. It's easily more difficult than Sekiro. It's more difficult than Elden Ring. It's more difficult than any of the From Software games that I've played. And I don't know if that's a good thing, because, once again, the bosses don't feel like they were designed with the parrying in mind, right? Once again, the easiest way that I can say this is that it's Sekiro with Dark Souls bosses, right? It's kind of like how people felt with Malenia in Elden Ring. Malenia feels like she's a Sekiro boss in a Souls game, and it just doesn't feel right for some people, right? And I think that those people are right in saying that, because she has moves that don't necessarily fit in the game in Elden Ring. They just don't fit. Waterfowl Dance is a move that doesn't fit into the Souls series. I think that it just doesn't work. There are ways of getting around it, of course, but even still, it's not a move that should be in the game. And that's kind of how all of the bosses feel in Lies of P, at least to me. It feels like they shouldn't be in this game. It feels like they should be in a different game, and I should be fighting other bosses. But, that's just kind of how the game felt to me when I was playing it. That's not to say that the game is bad and I think it's like unfair or anything, but it certainly just kind of felt strange. But there are things that are good. I think the level design was pretty good, as linear as it was. I think the visuals were very good. There was a lot of very good imagery in the game. I thought the music also was very good as well, and I liked the weapons in the game. I thought the variety of weapons was decent enough. Um, and in general, it nails a lot of the things that most Souls likes get wrong and or don't do very well. So there is a lot of good things about the game, but it's just the bosses didn't really feel good to me, right? They felt like if they made a different game with the same style of bosses that wasn't centered around parrying, I don't think there would be any issue. And I don't even think people would find the bosses as hard either. Um, and that's if they also happen to lessen the tracking, because I really do feel like that is a big factor, because being able to simply just strafe around a boss for certain moves is very important, and that's something that's so rare in Lies of P, just being able to strafe around the boss, because that's just how aggressive the tracking is. It's so rare to be able to do that, and when you do, it feels nice, but um, you know, you're still better off just standing still and parrying. But anyway, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say with regards to Lies of P. In general, I think that it's a good game. I think that it's a very frustrating game, a very difficult game, but also a very fun game as well. Anyway, that's it.